considered all this in my heart, so that I could declare it all, that the righteous and the wise and their works are in the hand of God. People know neither love nor hatred by anything they see before them. All things come alike to all. One event happens to the righteous and the wicked, to the good, the clean, and the unclean, to him who sacrifices and him who does not sacrifice. As is the good, so is the sinner. He who takes an oath, as he who fears an oath. This is an evil in all that is done under the sun, that one thing happens to all. Truly the hearts of the sons of men are full of evil. Madness is in their hearts while they live, and after that they go to the dead. But for him who is joined to all the living, there is hope. For a living dog is better than a dead lion. For the living know that they will die, but the dead know nothing, and they have no more reward. For the memory of them is forgotten. Also their love, their hatred, and their envy have now perished. Nevermore will they have a share in anything done under the sun. Go, eat your bread with joy, drink your wine with a merry heart, for God has already accepted your works. Let your garments always be white, and let your head lack no oil. Live joyfully with the wife whom you love all the days of your vain life which he has given you under the sun, all your days of vanity. For that is your portion in life, and in the labor which you perform under the sun. Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with your might. For there is no work, or device, or knowledge, or wisdom in the grave where you were going. I returned and saw under the sun that the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, nor bread to the wise, nor riches to men of understanding, nor favor to men of skill, but time and chance happen to them all. For man also does not know his time. Like fish taken in a cruel net, like birds caught in a snare, so the sons of men are snared in an evil time, when it falls suddenly upon them. Amen. And thanks be to God. So in the last section, we were asking how we are to live righteously in a world of sin. And we said we're going to have questions, because the wicked are those who are celebrated, apparently blessed. Judgment is deferred, and this emboldens the hearts of sinners. They seem to run riot and get away with murder. And we said that, yeah, we will have questions, but what we need to do then is let the word of God be our guide, not live by what we see, but live by what we hear. And part of doing that allows us to begin to relax and to enjoy life as we understand that all things are under God's hand. And so we need to concentrate on the little that we are given both to do and the little that we are given to enjoy, and then we just let God be God. And there's very much a continuation of that theme and of that message in this section, which kind of just rolls on from the end of chapter 8. But we move a little here beyond the idea of righteousness, how to live righteously in a world of sin, to hopeful living. How can we live with hope in a world of sin? How can we live with hope in a world of sin? And the first heading I've got as a question is this: how are we to discern the good life? Meaning, like, how are we to know what our life is for? Like, we are using our life rightly. Because if you want to be hopeful, then you want to know you're doing it right. You have no reason to be hopeful if you have no confidence that you're spending your life in the way that it's supposed to be spent. And so that's where we've got to start. How do we discern the good life? And we've been down this road before in the book. You might at this point be getting a little bit sick of the theme because it's major from beginning to end. What is our life to be about? What is a well-spent life? Should it be all about learning and wisdom and the acquisition of knowledge? Well, that's good. That's interesting. That can be glorifying to God. But if that is all you are living for, well, sooner or later you're going to come up against a wall because you're going to reach your own limitations. But moreover, you're going to be frustrated because you're going to try to figure out why things happen the way things happen, and particularly the correlation between being good and the rewards that we might expect. And sooner or later, you're going to hit that wall that he talks about in verse 15 of chapter 1, of saying what is crooked cannot be made straight, and what is lacking cannot be numbered. In other words, the just problems are too great. The more I know, the more distressed I am, and I can't set it right, and so I am being driven mad. So maybe we say, okay, well, maybe it's about amassing wealth. It's about getting as much money as we can, but we've shot that down because money is just something you use to get something else. And so if you're living for the thing that you use to get something else, you're going to find that there is nothing there worth the substance and the energies and strength of your life. And so wealth, it's not going to help us. So then you say, well, maybe endeavor, accomplishment, and work. And there's an awful lot of satisfaction in building something with the skills and the gifts that God has given us. The problem is, all of our works are subject, like it or not, to chance and fate. You might have an accident and you can no longer do your work. You might be in business and circumstances change, the economy comes crashing down, and you're made bankrupt and you have to dissolve the business. And so if that's what your life has been about, suddenly your life dissolves with the business. Moreover, doing this kind of stuff is all about trying to make something that will last. It's trying to gain eternity through making a name for yourself. You're seeking something that will last, something more permanent, and in the best cases, maybe a name goes on beyond the grave, but in most cases, your name and everything you have done is going to be completely forgotten. And then you say, well, maybe I should live for people, for relationships, for friendships, for family, because all of that is really good, except people are fickle and people die, and there is no lasting community. We're seeking a lasting community, and so, you make your life all about people. I mean, it's not enough to sustain a life, but most importantly also, you're going to really resent the rest of your life because the rest of your life is going to be doing other kinds of stuff. You can't just sit around with people all day, and so that's not the answer either. And then you say, well, maybe I should live for pleasure. Pleasure's a bit like money. Pleasure is there to indicate that a thing is good, that a thing is worth pursuing. Pleasure is not the end in itself. Pleasure helps us to discover the thing of value, but also because we're all screwed up because of the fall, our pleasure kind of guide is really off and can lead us into seeking pleasure in things that actually do us harm. And so that's not going to be very good for us either. And then we might say, well, doing good and living virtuously, maybe that's what life should be about. This is what Aristotle thought life should be about. And I think that is a good way to spend your life. Except even there, you're searching for something in yourself that you never quite attain to. And you're searching for something in the world and in others that you never quite see. And so ultimately it becomes this frustrating pursuit. And so how are we to discern the good life? How are we to know that we are doing life right so that we might be hopeful? And the question is implicitly asked, I think, in the second part of verse 1 when he says, people know neither love nor hatred by anything they see before them. So this is one of those verses that's kind of difficult to translate, and people will take it in different directions. So some people will say, people know neither love nor hatred, meaning whether God loves them or God hates them, by the stuff they see before them. And that kind of gets us to where I want to go, but that's not how I think we should understand it. The other way to understand this is people don't really figure out what love is and what hate is. In other words, what good is and what evil is by the stuff that they see before them. And the reason I would go in that direction is because in verse 6, he's going to speak of love and hatred and envy perishing with those who die. In other words, the expressions and the activities of a human life. And so this is the thing he's saying, like, if we want to know what is loving and we want to live for love, and we want to know what is hateful, and we want to avoid hateful living, we're not going to figure it out by the stuff that is before us. We're not going to figure it out by what we see. And so we can't discern the good life by what we see. And I think, though, this is actually how most of us live. So we shape our lives, we hold certain commitments, we make choices, we spend our energies on the basis of what? Oftentimes, on the basis of, is this working for me? Is this making me happy? Is this getting me the results that I want? Is this making me feel fulfilled? Do I have contentment in these things? And if I don't, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to keep searching. I'm going to keep changing. And I'm going to keep shifting until I find the thing which at times I fear cannot be found, because it seems my heart is all over the place. Now, without abandoning the general idea that there is a covenantal structure in life, meaning there is a reaping and sowing principle, blessing for obedience, curses for disobedience, what he wants us to understand is that the picture is much more complex. The picture is more complex because it seems at times like that covenantal structuring of life, like the sense that there is justice in the world, it goes right out of the window. All things, he says, verse 2, come alike to all. One event happens to the righteous and the wicked, to the good, the clean, and the unclean, to him who sacrifices and to him who does not sacrifice. As is the good, so is the sinner. He who takes an oath and he who fears an oath. Irrespective of how you live, he says. This is what we see if we look with our eyes, if we're trying to join the dots between the thing we're pouring ourselves into and what we're getting out of it. He's saying this, irrespective of how you live, whether you are righteous, wicked, good, clean, unclean, ceremonially, whether you sacrifice or you don't, whether you have the courage and conviction to make oaths, or you're the type of person who flees from commitment and accountability, you know what? Change, circumstance, and chance happen to all, seemingly without any respect of person. So you think about it, the granny who has 20 cigarettes a day, bottle of whiskey a day, and she lives till she's 90. And then there's the marathon runner. My body's a temple, gets lung cancer in his 40s and dies. The godly Christian who's worked hard, they're humble, they're generous, and they're blessed. They have a beautiful family, they have a beautiful home, great friends, financial security, important, valued, satisfying work. And then there's the godly Christian who never gets a break, who couldn't have children, whose husband died in the early years of marriage, who suffers a stillborn child, the death of a toddler. I've known these people. And you see, at times there is no rhyme, no reason. We want there to be rhyme and reason, but at times we can't see it. Now, it's not that there's no semblance of anything like that. Obviously, somebody who trains really hard is likely to win a race. Obviously, the beefneck is likely to win a fight. The wise person is likely to have bread. And the skilled person is likely to know favor from God. But there is equally a strong counter-narrative that says, not always. Not always. You think you've got it figured out. You think you put in the effort. You're going to get the rewards. You think you're going to do the right thing. You're going to have the life that you wished you could have, but not always. In fact, focusing on select evidence, it is often not the case. And so he ends with, I don't know why we read this in a really positive light, but he ends with this poem in verse 11, that the race is not to the swift. The battle is not to the strong. The bread is not to the wise. The riches not to men of understanding, nor is favor to men of skill. And we might want to read that and say, oh, that's because everything depends upon grace. But that's not actually what he's saying. He's saying because time and chance happen to them all. You could be righteous, you could be diligent, you could be self-controlled, and you might suffer like the lazy pig who never got out of bed and never made their bed in the morning. Time and chance happen to all of us. So here's the problem. If you decide how to live based on outcomes, based on immediate experience of like, is this enriching my life? Is this making me happy? Do I feel fulfilled? Am I getting the results that I want? Am I where I want to be? Is this what my life is for? Am I living well? Is this the good life? Then you know what? You will be tossed and turned and twisted by time and chance. You might as well climb into a washing machine and there just spin around, or climb into a tire and be thrown down a hill, if that's how you're trying to figure out, is this what my life is for? You cannot judge what your life is for based on how you feel, based on the results, based on the rewards, based on whether it is making you feel good about yourself. It's leading you to the places that you want to be. Why? Because time and chance happen to all. This is our experience. And it's tempting, because sometimes it kind of works. It does. Like, nobody would ever say, don't prepare for an exam. No, prepare for the exam. You'll probably do better than the person who doesn't prepare for the exam. But then there is the person who prepares for the exam, and they have some terrible accident the day before, and they can't even sit the exam, and so they get no results. This is ultimately dangerous ground for truth and for the discerning of what is good. So if the unwise would look to the changeable oceans of their heart's desire, to the changeable oceans of time and circumstance, where is it that the wise look? The wise look to the unchangeable, eternal rock of creation. The wise are those who look to God, who holds it all. Verse 1. For I considered all this in my heart, so that I could declare it all, that the righteous and the wise and their works are in the hand of God. It's not about what we see. It is about knowing that there is a transcendent and higher God. And if we want to know what our life should be about, how we should live, how we should direct our steps, it is not safe to go by results. It is safe to ask God, God, what would you have me to do? God, how would you have me to live? It is God, he says in verse 7, who has already accepted your works. It is God who gives value to our life. It is God who measures our life. It is God who gifts our life. It is God who memorializes our life. If we want to know what our life is for, it is no good judging by how it makes us feel or where it gets us. If we want to know what life is for, we must learn it from God. God alone is a sure guide to a good life. Doesn't matter what you see, doesn't matter what you hear, doesn't matter what appears to work or appears not to work. What matters, if you want to be wise, if you want to know that you are living rightly, that you are doing life right, that you might have hope, is living hung upon the words of God. Speak, Lord, for your servant heareth. With whatever cards I am dealt, I will look to God. What would you have me to do here where I am? We can't discern the good life, live hopefully based on what is seen, but from looking to God. So this is the first idea. How do we discern the good life? It can't be by what we see before us. It can't be. Time and chance happen to all. So you want to figure out, am I doing life right? It has to be looking to, listening to, learning from God. So the second step to a hopeful life is this: to understand the immense privilege and gift of life. So he says in verse 3, this is an evil in all that is done under the sun, that one thing happens to all. Truly, the hearts of the sons of men are full of evil. Madness is in their hearts while they live, and after that, they go to the dead. Now, if you remember last week, you might realize verse 3 is an answer to one of the problems he raised back in chapter 8 and verse 11. because the sentence against an evil work is not executed speedily, the heart of the sons of men is fully set in them to do evil. So one of his complaints is, because God's judgment doesn't come immediately upon sinners, men's hearts are filled with more sin, and they do more sin. And this is a frustration to him. And so now the answer comes in verse 3, that these people who are full of evil, because the judgment is deferred, yes, they are filled with evil, but he says, you know what? They're going to die. They're going to die. That's his answer. And you might hear that and think, they're going to die, and then comes the judgment. They're going to die, then comes the judgment. But that's not actually the point. The point he's making is that life, the possession of life in the present, is a gift that outshines every evil, injustice, disadvantage, perceived cruelty of fate, or the allotment of natural goods. Life outshines it all. So whilst alive, a lion is glorious and majestic and strong. He's the champion of the animal kingdom. And do you know who's not? Just a hammer on the dogs, as I did last week, the dog cult. It's the dogs. For the Israelis, the dog is despised. The dog is filthy and unclean. The dog is unwelcomed. A modern translation would be something like this. The lion, right? The lion is, we all know, glorious, majestic still, right? But then compare the lion with, like, the rat. The lion and the rat, or the lion and the wasp, or the lion and that annoying summer fly that just buzzes around and you can't hit it and you can't get rid of it, and it's just there and it keeps landing on your leg and you waft it away and it comes back again. The lion and the annoying summer fly. Without denying the objectively better qualities of the lion, because he's not doing that, he's saying this: it's better to be a living dog. It's better to be an annoying summer fly than it is to be a dead lion. Verse 4, why? Because for him who is joined to all the living, there is hope. A living dog, the lowest of animals in the estimation of Israel, is nevertheless better than a glorious, majestic, but dead lion. So here is a painful and humbling truth, that there are lions out there. There are people who are better looking than you. There are people who are better off than you, who have better starts in life than you, better opportunities, who objectively are healthier, stronger. They have more beautiful personalities. They're more energetic, significantly greater intelligence. They're born into a better country. They're born into a better family. They're born at a better time. Lions amongst us annoying summer flies. But you know what? The vast majority of the greatest people are dead. And you know what? The vast majority of the greatest people who are alive today will soon be dead. And when they die, with them goes everything about their life. Verse 5. Their memory of them is forgotten. Their loves, their hatreds, their envies, it has all perished. Nevermore will they have a share in anything that is done under the sun. So we're not dealing here with the afterlife and questions of the afterlife. We're dealing with life on which the afterlife is contingent. And here's what he's saying, that you today, in little old Sunderland, in your little old lives, have greater advantage, opportunity, and privilege than Aristotle, than Einstein, than Dickens, than Churchill, than Tolkien, than Lewis. Why? Because their time is up. And they have made of it as they wish, and the rest now, they've made of it, and it rests now in the hands of God. But your time is still now. Your time is still now. Death is lurking. It is ready to bite and catch you in a cruel snare, as he says in verse 12. A man does not know his time, like a fish who's snaffled up in the net. He's just having a happy little day, swimming around, and the next thing, the fisherman's net comes, and he's gone. Or the bird who is caught in the snare. So for the sons of men, they are snared at an evil time, and it falls upon them suddenly. You don't know when you're going to die. Could be tonight, could be tomorrow. could be in 30 years' time. But what you do know, if you are wise, he says, verse 5, is that you are not yet dead. You will be dead, but you're not yet dead. That puts you at a significant advantage over everybody else that is dead. Over all of those glorious, majestic, blessed lions, nevertheless, you, as a living dog, an annoying summer fly, have something that they would give their right arm for. Breath and life on this earth, opportunity and privilege, the time to take of the goods of this life, to take of the higher goods of this life. Now, in light of the fact, what if you spent then your entire infinitesimally small and precious life looking over your shoulder at others, studying the lives of other people, studying the justice of the universe and getting frustrated by it and trying to figure it out and saying, well, it doesn't seem to make sense, so why bother doing anything? What if you spent this small but precious life wishing you were someone else or you were somewhere else? Do you not know that the most brilliant of men and women would give anything to take what you have, to breathe another breath, to see the sun, to know love again, to make something, to seize whatever opportunities they can? To live is to have hope. To know you're alive and will one day die is to have hope. To be a living dog is better than a dead lion. Now note, the premise of the whole argument is that to live a life worth living and find genuine fulfillment and blessedness mustn't depend on whether you are a lion or a fly. It doesn't depend on whether you're a lion or a dog. It doesn't depend on the hand you're dealt, on your intelligence, on your beauty, on your privilege, on what others are doing or what others have done, but rather, the premise of the argument is this, that there is a value and there is a fullness and there is a blessedness to be had in every life. In your life, in all of its particular circumstances, with all of its problems, with all of its gifts, with all of its advantages, with all of the setbacks, in your life is the opportunity of fullness and blessedness. And it is open to you whilst your heart still beats. People get distracted from their life that they actually have, thinking about the life that they don't have. Forget about what is fair and unfair. Forget about what you want and don't have. Forget about the wicked. Forget about the righteous and the blessed. Your life, and it can only ever be your life, is the greatest of gifts you will ever have. Because where there is life, there is hope of something greater than the sum of all lives. You're going to die, but right now you have what millions of souls would trade the world for: the privilege and the gift to live in God's earth, under the hand of God. As we said in the first point, seeking to learn how to live from God. And this is still within your reach while you have life. And so, how do we live with hope in a world of sin? Well, we first need to discern the good life. We need to know we are living right, doing life right, and then we can have hope. And so we go to God, the unchanging God. He teaches us. Then we need to understand the immense privilege and the gift of life. Better to be a living dog than a dead lion. And then finally thinking kind of sort of practically, this third heading, hopeful living. How can we practice hopeful living? And the first is going to sound like repetition here, but we live for God, okay? So the righteous, the good, the clean, those who make sacrifice, those who engage with the faith in the cult of Israel, the Christians today, we might suffer precisely the same as the wicked, the unclean, and the irreligious. But here's the thing. We are not living for the gains of life. We are living for the gains of God. We're not left wondering what life is for because it doesn't turn out as we wish. We're not getting the results that we wish. We know what life is for. We are learning it from God. And we're not striving to win life, but rather we are, as God's people, already in receipt of life, receiving it from the Lord. We know, as he says in verse 1, that we, the righteous, the wise, and our works are in the hands of God. That's what we know. What peace of mind comes from this, to know that we are in the hand of God, and he will do what is right, and he will reward according to his wisdom, and he will bless according to his wisdom and love. We know this, that as respondents to his gracious covenant, whether seen in the types and shadows of the old covenant before Christ comes, or whether seen in the fulfillment of Christ in his death and in his resurrection, that our works, as he says in verse 7, have already been accepted by God. Here is the peace of mind that comes to the saints, that God has already made something of us. God has already made something of us. God is sanctifying our poor efforts. God treasures our feeble gestures. We are not anxious. We are not lost. We are not searching. We are not grasping for anything that will last. But we know this, that we are loved, we are held, we are found, we are given focus, we are given purpose, we are given meaning in God. We live not for the changeable oceans of our heart's desires, not for the changeable oceans of fortune and chance, but we live for an unchanging God. Our lives are loved, received, held, and blessed, and governed, and our futures laid out by this God. And so we live for him. We live for him, and the weight is taken off. Now, because of this, we can live, this is the second of three kind of minor points under this third point, in gracious appreciation and cherishing, and the cherishing of his gifts. Knowing that our works have been accepted, knowing that we are loved by God because we live for God, learning to live from God, we can know this. If he gives us length of days, food on our table, and wine in our flagons, in verse 7, go eat your bread with joy and drink your wine with a merry heart, for God has already accepted your works. If he does so, then we can eat whatever he gives with joy, and we can drink whatever he gives with a merry heart as gifts from the beloved, as though he had laid out a feast for us. When the privilege and the opportunity is there to have a good meal, to drink some good wine, we can say, as those whose works have been accepted by God, we are here feasting on the expressions of his love to us. We are tasting of the love that we will know to a fuller and higher degree when his work is finished, when he has perfected the earth, when he has perfected our lives. If he gives us the opportunity to break from our patterns of labor in verse 8, to don festal garments and to anoint ourselves with perfumes and aftershaves, to live a semi-prosperous life, to put on the frock and the dancing shoes, and to make merry and to go and to revel with the angels who gather around Mount Zion, we know that in this we are tasting of the celebration that awaits. It is good for us to step aside from our labors, to party, to dance, and to make merry with friends, because if it is given by God, and we know that it is given by God, then what we are doing is, again, just beginning to taste of the revelry of the consummate joys of the heaven that lies ahead. If he has blessed you with a wife, third one, we are to drink deeply of that friendship. We are to live in appreciation of the ecstatic union of the body. Verse 9, he says, live joyfully with the wife whom you love all the days of your vain life, which he has given you under the sun. Favorite verse of mine, totally cringe and awkward, and Anna's going to die inside, but it's on the inside of my wedding ring. Proverbs chapter 5 and verse 18. Let your fountain be blessed, and rejoice with the wife of your youth. As a loving deer and a graceful doe, let her breasts satisfy you at all times, and always be enraptured with her love. If he has blessed you with a wife, you are to enjoy communion with that wife. And in the pleasure, and I know it's awkward, but in the pleasure, do not for a moment think that this pleasure is not of God. Do not. That is godless thinking, pagan thinking. No, if you can, and it's a weird thing to do, but if you can, you have to tell yourself this moment, this experience is of God, because God is a God of pleasure. And if his pleasures in shadow form bestowed upon me now, this side of the new creation, are such as I find them, then how much greater are the pleasures awaiting the saints at his right hand. We are released as we live for God to delight in the gifts he gives. Length of days, food on the table, wine, revelry and dancing, and communion with our wives in such a way that we fan the flames of what lies ahead. These are like little down payments, little movements of God as he is drawing us into the fullness of the inheritance that awaits us as the people of God. So we're not lost and confused. We look to God to know how to live. We are learning from God. We are received and loved and held by God. And then we live in gracious appreciation, cherishing the gifts he gives. And you could extend that to whatever gifts he gives in your life. And then finally, this is the last thing, finally, not fearing failure because we are already loved. Not held back thinking that if we try to live heroically for God, we're going to miss out because God will see to our blessing. Not wasting life because we know it is precious. Not lost because we listen to the voice of God. We are to seize every opportunity to make the most of this precious life as we find it. Verse 10. Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with your might. For there is no work, there is no device, no knowledge, no wisdom in the grave where you are going. While it is day, as Jesus says, and he has shown you the light, work the works of him who has sent you, for the night is coming when no one can work. And I don't think he means here just work, just evangelism. Approach all you do, whether it is worship, whether it is friendship, whether it is marriage and those bits of marriage that we've been talking about, whether it is family, whether it is writing if you're a writer, whether it is building something if you're a builder, whether it is drawing, whether it is music, whether it is games and merriment, whether it is learning and discovery, whether it is your ordinary service, whether it is exercise, whether it is eating, whether it is drinking, whether it is thinking, whether it is resting, with a valiant endeavor to the glory of God. That's what you are to do. Tell yourself this. Now is the time. Whatever the time is, now is the time. This is it. This is the life, wherever it is. And it is precious, and it is his gift. And I am going to praise him in my appreciation and use and application of whatever I am doing right now. Whether it is by the sweat of my brow, because I'm in some kind of hard work, whether it is with silly giggles because I'm playing with my children, or whether it is in silent contentment because I have just enjoyed something great. But here it is, the life of blessedness, right now until tomorrow. Right now until the future. But here in the present, God meets me. Here I am blessed by my God. Here I meet him and I receive whatever it is he is sending with that appropriate response, with all my heart, whether that is in hard work, whether that is in enjoyment, whether that is in just receiving a gift, whether that is in enjoying the good meal, with all my heart, I'll give it to the Lord in the moment. This is my blessedness right now until tomorrow, and he will take care of tomorrow. How can we live with hope in a world of sin? Well, we know what is good as we learn it from God. We are not chasing an ever-changing mirage. We're not left guessing. We're not left trying to figure it out by what works. We simply just listen to God and respond as God instructs us with whatever circumstances fall out before us. We know the value of life because we know we will die. And we don't mind if we are dogs and if we are annoying summer flies and not lions and There's not many lions amongst us, but it's better to be alive. To be alive is to be within reaching distance of blessedness. And we can know blessedness because we have been found and so live as we are meant to live, with godliness, with appreciation, and with valiant endeavor. And in this way we can live a hopeful life. Amen.